Welcome to the Grill 2020. I'm Ryan.
I'm Richard.
Tonight, as the government shutdown looms, will President Trump declare an emergency? Alexandria OcasioCortez shut down by senior Dems. Will she pull the left even farther to the left? And TV news in 2018 shown to be 90% negative towards Trump. Will break that down. If you'd like to support this program, we have a link to our Patreon and our PayPal in the link description below, and we appreciate any donation you may have. So, Richard, let's start off with this shutdown. Everybody's all angry; they can't go to the national parks. It's starting to hit the air terminals a little bit. What do you think Trump will do?
Yeah. I think especially now that the business community is a bit concerned. There's some reports that Delta is informing their shareholders that certainly the first quarter profits of this year, 2019, are going to be affected adversely by the shutdown, by the delays, and mostly by government workers who aren't using Delta or presumably other airlines to actually go and travel for business on federal government business. So I wonder if that's going to perhaps move these parties a little closer, perhaps to a compromise. It seems to me there are a couple ways that this could perhaps develop. The worst scenario for Trump is that the Republicans revolt. Mitch McConnell brings some Democratic bill to the floor, and they pass a veto-proof budget over Trump. He'll veto it ceremoniously, then they'll repass it again over his veto, open up the government with no wall funding or no meaningful wall funding. But if they do that, I don't think that's going to happen. Republicans will be committing suicide. Everyone who does it will be knocked off, or a lot of people will be knocked off in primaries if they do that. It's just not gonna happen. I wonder if they'd even have the 2/3 majority to overrule in the House, just because so many of the Republicans that are still in the caucus very much lean that way. I'm going to say they're both entrenched. But here's another situation, another scenario. Trump wins, and he wins because there's some kind of shift in semantics, whereby he's been trying to do this. Oh, I'm going to get some steel slats. We're going to have a wall, etc., etc. It's not going to be the concrete barrier. So he's saying, okay, well, maybe you guys said no to the wall, but you can have something else. So anyways, they each have some bit of a victory because the Democrats went along with funding for some kind of barrier, and Trump can claim the victory by saying, oh yeah, it's effectively a wall. They voted for a wall. They just didn't call it a wall. I think that is probably the most realistic, best scenario for Trump. And probably the third option is probably, again, this is more on the unlikely side, but that's, there are enough Democrats who are really feeling the pinch, that they're just going to somehow fold and only give, a slight amount, or, it's just going to be, they're going to call it border security and they claim that, but for some reason, Trump is going to somehow emerge victorious on this because the Democratic ranks somehow just fall like dominoes and say, maybe a little funding for a wall, maybe barriers are. You already started to see this on the Sunday shows. You've seen more and more reports on the newspapers today and yesterday.
That's certainly true. One of the Democrats' talking points is they really can't get past the fact that Mexico's not going to directly pay for this. The reporters keep harping on that, despite the fact that through trade deals, Trump may be able to effectively, raise some billions of dollars for that. I think a lot of people are just tired of this. There's a reason why Trump was elected, is because Republicans and Democrats of both parties never did their duty. They never upheld the law. There's a reason why Trump always talks about being a law and order candidate, because that's what people want. People want security. They want some excitement in their life, but they want some consistency, and they want to feel safe. With the if he declares national state of emergency, how much money do you think that he'll be able to sort of divert from other means to be able to build that wall?
Oh yeah, well there's another alternative. That's kind of an extra. That's outside of regular order, right? I wonder what the meltdown would be. Jonah Goldberg in the National Review. I think this was before his speech to the nation from the Oval Office last week, basically said, I think this is impeachable. Jonah Goldberg, of course, is a never Trump, Washington D.C., rhino. So, okay, you know what? He's been insulated sipping his lattes too long, like a lot of the National Review crowd. But what I think is probably, so that's probably not a mainstream Republican sentiment. And I don't even see how that's legally possible. What is possible is that, you even had Joe Manchin saying, fine, declare an emergency. This is one way where neither side is going to have to admit defeat. We'll reopen the government if that's what it takes to get the emergency and for Trump to get his wall, then so be it. The thing with that is, I wonder if there'll be enough Republicans who are going to be so weary, and this is where Republicans might actually be very uneasy. Enough Republicans will say, we don't want to set this precedent because, you can declare an emergency and the powers are so broad. Even if you get away with it in the courts, it's going to be, there are going to be some pretty broad. It's acknowledged that there is a premise, if you will, that is a, how would I say this? A premise that perhaps a precedent that the Republicans will not like the fact that they've essentially created a precedent for future presidents, Democratic presidents, to establish a wall, or to do something other project. They're not going to establish a wall, right? Some other project will declare a national emergency, and they're not going to like that. So yeah, I don't see how that's viable. One other option that I did see was that Trump would declare a national emergency, build the wall, and then still not reopen the government because he's going to want to still do it through regular order. Now that would be ballsy.
Yeah, Democrats, all they can do is they just keep talking about we're for border security, but not the border wall. Well, I mean, I haven't seen anywhere where the Democrats are saying, well, let's put 5 border agents per mile of that wall. I mean, that'd be quite an undertaking.
Infrared, and but even some Democrats, I forget which ones, were saying, yeah, it's basically a wall. Border security without barriers is ineffective. And here's the thing: they're calling it walls immoral. And, he'll never get a wall or some kind of man part thing. Nancy Pelosi said, when in reality they were all supportive and have voted for funding for barriers and walls. One of the things that was interesting was the 06 and subsequent border wall fundings that have gone through. Interestingly enough, these have been mostly in California and Arizona. California's border is mostly walled, with the kind of slats and effectiveness that Jim Acosta even inadvertently said works in San Diego. But yes, maps of where there are already significant barriers there, along the lines of what the president wants, are primarily exist in California. What that did, especially the 2006 version, was essentially bring a lot of the crossings that, at least on land, so, I'm not talking about subterranean crossings, but at least on land, it brought them from perhaps more developed areas like San Diego, big metropolitan city, to more remote areas. It's actually more dangerous unless you actually are able to build these barriers for the people trying to cross into these. They're trying to cross in the deserts, places which aren't as developed, because the border wall fencing is either not there or it's just not as stable or strong as would be sufficient to keep them out. So it's another interesting thing. So if you want to prevent people from crossing the middle of nowhere in the deserts of Arizona and New Mexico, well then maybe we should consider building these borders as a deterrent as well. These border walls as a deterrent. I mean,
if you were to make any predictions, how much longer do you think this will go on for?
Oh geez, I'm terrible at predictions, Ryan.
Ballpark.
For audience, I do not have a good track record on predictions, so I just don't make them anymore.
That's fair. That's fair. I'll predict. I don't know. I don't want to be wrong, so I'm not going to make a prediction. So okay, let's go on to the star child, Alexandria OcasioCortez. You'd shared with me an interesting article about. From Ben Shapiro, and he was comparing Alexandria Cortez to Trump, and I believe there's 6 different respects. So what's your take on those different ideas?
Yeah, that's really interesting. In a sense, she kind of is, because she's visceral, she's asinine, and her fans love her for it, and she says things which are just completely outrageous, and she's semi-media darling. Where she isn't Trump is that she doesn't really have the brand. She really didn't have the public notoriety or broad broad sped or prestige or fame or money that Trump had even before he ran. So I think it's a little premature, if not incorrect, to call her, say she's going to be the next Donald Trump, or the Democrat Trump. But she could get worse. She does have 200 million. She has 2 million followers on Twitter, which is pretty significant. She's very active on Twitter. She's very prolific. She's been getting a lot of notoriety in the mainstream press. They mention her whenever they mention progressive ideas like the Green New Deal, things of that nature. But interestingly enough, Democrats are super worried. They know they're not going to be able to win if they do this. They felt like, in a sense, you could actually bring out people to the polls, but you're going to turn off, the suburban voters that they did well with in 2018 because they were turned off by Trump. But these voters are not going to go for, the Green New Deal. And, they're probably making in nice incomes, and they're not going to want their tax rates to go up that significantly to pay for something that isn't even really proven. So, yeah, no, it's interesting. Joe Lieberman actually said she was just, flashy and appealing. And Alexandria OcasioCortez, she trolled him. She basically said, "Did you see the response, Ryan?" And she said, responding to Lieberman's comments, she said, new party, who dis? Which is a play, of course, off new phone, who is this? Like when you get a call or something. Basically saying, your time has passed, old man, move on. So that's going to be dangerous for the party, but they can't ignore her. Because money and energy is with this progressive left and with the extreme left, and they can't. They have. It's like the issue with a lot of people, with both parties. How do you channel the excitement, but still not go too far policy-wise? Talk kind of a middle game, but not too middle. So it looks like you're trying to appease too many people, and you still come off as authentic. So, anyways, this is going to be a problem. I believe this will really be a problem for the Democrats. She's hard to control. Even Whoopi on The View, Whoopi Goldberg, said that, didn't tell her directly, but said in a commentary on the program that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez needs to shut up. And she needs to sit down and learn. So, she's a little controversial firecracker in her own party, and maybe that's good for promoting your own brand, whether it's good for the party, whether it's good for, she's actually stealing the headlines. If you had given her a script that sounded moderate and put her instead of checking Nancy over at the, response to President Trump, maybe that would have gone off a little better. She's more telegenic. Being Hispanic, although she's certainly not Mexican. Puerto Ricans are born in U.S. citizens, of course. And all issues obviously born in New York. But, so she's not, the immigration wouldn't really deal with her heritage per se. But nevertheless, it would have been a better image than Chuck and Nancy. But, can she be controlled? No. Nancy Pelosi even gave her some crappy committee assignments. She was hoping to get on the tax writing committee, the Ways and Means committee, to write some taxes for that 70%, progressive tax she wanted. Democrats are really trying to control her, rein her in. I don't think she can be reined in. You got all this free media, and couple that with how telegenic she is and how good she is on social media. That she's going to be hard to control. Who doesn't like to have all this kind of notoriety too? She's really into herself. She doesn't give a damn about the rest of the party.
Which committee did she get on?
I forget. But she was aiming for the Ways and Means Committee, the tax writing committee, and she did not get it. And that was covered in Politico and what have you.
Maybe they gave her the transportation. Maybe they gave her the transportation committee.
Maybe they did. New Deal. Biofuels. Cooking oil.
Well, I told you this before. If Trump was going to play the chess game here, he should find some sort of vague issue that he has some agreement with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, take it like prison reform, so that they can. What he needs to do is he needs to invite her to the Oval Office, do prison reform part 2, and then legitimize her to make the Democratic Party go even further to the left and make it even harder on him.
Yes. Once she becomes mainstream, she loses her luster. Especially if she's friends with Trump. It is not to her advantage to be cozy buddy-buddy with Trump. She's called him a racist already on Anderson Cooper, with an interview with Anderson Cooper. So, he would be very smart to do that, I think. He would make an overture to her. When she said, the media said that she trolled him with a tweet when it was told to Trump that she had called him a racist. And he's like, who cares? And she says, I know men like you. I serve bartenders. She didn't really bartend. A bartender for years in New York. I know men like you. And it's like, Trump doesn't drink. Trump doesn't drink. but it's so asinine and untrue and unrealistic that, you know, it's just a thing to kind of rev up her followers, but it makes her less and less kind of mainstream too. So, you know, why not make friends with her? You know, give her a cabinet appointment. You know, make her ambassador to Kazakhstan. Or Venezuela. Make her ambassador to Venezuela. Does she even speak Spanish? If she doesn't, that's okay. Socialist regime.
Well, she could, you know, make her the head of like the food and beverage, you know, department or something. Use those bartending skills to her advantage.
Oh, okay. ATF.
Or whatever. Yeah, exactly. Whatever it is. It reminds me how far the party's gone to the left. MSNBC had this. It was on Ari Melbourne, and there was this guest on, and she was talking about Bernie Sanders, and they were talking about the 2020 presidential election, and she said she just wishes that those old white men would go away.
Yes. Keep talking like that, Democrats. Please keep talking like that. You'll guarantee Republicans take back the House and Trump gets reelected. At least. Please keep talking like that, Democrats. Make those people front and center. Put her in every campaign ad.
Well, yeah, I mean, any Democrat who has any semblance of, you know, the ones that are to the left but not the far left. We know that when it comes to the presidential debates, they're all going to be at the children's table when it comes to the debate. They're going to be on the debate 4 hours ahead of time, which are sometimes the best debates.
Julian Castro and Tulsi Gabbard, who you know I have some before, but you know. Whom else? You know, Warren will probably make it won't be at the kids' table, but yeah. I
mean, what's it looking like? It is. What's it looking like right now? It looks like it's going to be Bernie Sanders at the primary table, the adult tables. They would say you have Warren, Sanders, most likely Kamala Harris, Biden. That's quite some dinner.
You know what? Hillary Clinton still hasn't said she wouldn't run.
That's right.
In fact, many of her, you know, her posse are still trying to keep her name in the ring. You know, probably for self-promotion. You know, she may not run, or you know, they're trying to keep her options open. It's like, oh god.
That's another thing Trump could do. He could challenge Hillary to an after election debate.
People were saying it was going to be like Hillary 3.0 because, you know, but I'm like, you know, how many times has the woman reinvented herself? It's going to be Hillary like 10.0. Take a break.
All right, so TV news showing to be 90% negative towards Trump in 2018. I mean, that's not a surprise. We obviously know MSNBC and CNN are to the left, and NBC. Do you think there's any room for CBS or ABC to tone it down a little and at least appear a little more moderate?
Here's the thing: let's go with what sells. You know, I hear some of these people who don't even watch news, right? They don't even watch news, but they say, why can't news go back to the way it was, where they just reported simple facts? Well, in that case, you had very subtle bias. We always knew that they were liberal, and they had a liberal bias in many respects in terms of what stories they pursued, who they chose to go after. But you know, can you just report the facts? Well, you know what? That doesn't sell, and these are businesses. You have to have this opinion journalism in order to keep up and survive. And the mainstream media has always, to a lesser degree perhaps, has always kind of been a mouthpiece for the left, and they are now explicitly. They're not even trying to hide it. A lot of them, you know, with what's his name. Anderson Cooper rolling his eyes. You know, he used to be unbiased. He rolled his eyes at Kellyanne Conway. If someone at Fox News had done that to a Democratic woman, they would have been crying sexism. You know, Don Lemon over at CNN, I thought he was supposed to be an unbiased thinker. Not anymore. But I think they're realizing, unless they actually pander, unless they actually make some kind of, it's not even analysis, you know, so they're some kind of ideological charge to the reporting, you know, people are going to tune in. Because many of them say, well, why can't we just have real news? The people that actually watch, the people that are going to actually watch and bring in advertising revenue, they want this commentary. And right now, to be honest with you, Fox has dominated the conservative market. I would say center, right to right, of course, market. And I think, you know, the rest of the mainstream media, they don't even try to play it. The mainstream media, I should say, doesn't try to play it straight anymore. And they're just competing for what's left. people without real ideological kind of persuasions, whoever you are, I wonder what you watch. That would be a very good survey. Amongst those people, what networks do they watch? So,
if you watch Fox News, why would you need to go to CNN for balance when you have Shep Smith at 12 p.m. Pacific?
Oh, I know Shep Smith. Yes, exactly. Supposedly restrict what do you call it? Unbiased anchor, if you will. But we know his proclivities toward liberalism, and he's certainly been very tough there. So yeah, you can watch Shepard Smith reporting. And here's the thing: Shepard Smith reporting probably does a really good job at Fox. I'm sure it's a good voice to have. To make sure that you are balanced in that respect. But you're not going to have people who are like Don Lemon and Jim Acosta, and then who was the other guy over at CNN? Or of course Anderson Cooper. Anyways,
Jake Tapper.
Go on. Oh, Tapper. Tapper. What happened to Wolf Blitzer? Is he still around?
He is. He is still around. Yes.
So yeah, there you go, Ryan. That is something else. I don't quite know what else to say about that, because here's the thing: if Fox has dominated the conservative market, of course all these other networks are going to have negative coverage because they've decided to double down on Trump's skepticism, and so if we're just counting their coverage as relative to Fox's, even though more people are probably watching Fox than any one other of those channels, then yeah, it doesn't surprise me that it's going to be negative.
Yeah.
We're not going to compete for the conservative media. I mean, conservative viewers.
Is the Blaze still on?
The Blaze merged with CRTV, right? So the only other kind of alternative I can think of is One American News, but they don't really run advertisements, do they? I think they're just subscription. So
Yeah. Newsmax. I think Newsmax also does one too. Maybe.
Yeah, this is really interesting. Why doesn't Alexandria OcasioCortez go on Fox?
She can't.
I would love to have her on Fox. She would be great on Fox.
Yeah, put her on Outnumbered.
Put her against Laura Ingraham. Yes. Oh, too bad Kimberly Guilfoyle is also Puerto Rican. Would have been able to debate her, and she couldn't have pulled the race card on her, and she couldn't have pulled the gender card on her.
I think Tucker Carlson's the best person on Fox, and put her on with Tucker, because Tucker is a very clever guy. He knows how to ask questions in ways that other anchors don't know how to, and he brings an independent voice that would really be a great interview.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's absolutely true. Yes, indeed.
Yeah. Well, that's all I had. Did you have anything on your head?
This has been a really interesting, couple of weeks, folks. I just want to point out the fact. We don't have a set date yet, but we will be pulling out kind of a podcast, kind of audio only. It's going to be a much shorter version, or might be a collection of a lot of what we do here. We're hoping that you might subscribe to that once we have the information. We're certainly going to put it out to you. Really hope that you'll be able to like what we're doing here, and that you also tell your friends and tune in when that happens.
Excellent. That's the Grill. I'm Ryan.
I'm Richard.
And we'll see you guys next time.